Hey there, conquistadors. We are Table at Gaming, and you are about to witness nuclear hot takes on the brand new October update Nord's army list.
Am I immortal or half beast? We'll find out in this review.
So, October update just dropped. All the army lists and core rules have changed. We did Wadroon. Some of that is already out of date because there was changes from the preview to today. And there was technically changes from like the launch of things till like the end of the day. So that's pretty fun. It's pretty cool. So those were the hottest takes that we could possibly do. These are a little cold because we've had a little bit of time to digest most of the changes, and there's newer changes. And also, you'll notice that we are far away from each other right now. We're doing this remote because we have the technology, but you can still see our little faces.
You can't
So
get rid of our little faces.
So I am going to let Brandon drive because some of you might know this. Brandon used to primarily play Nords, so he's a little Nord boy. And so let's look at Ice, Flesh, and Blood. Let's take this old expertise. This, you know, they say once a Nord, always a Nord. So let's see if that's true or not. How do you feel about Ice, Flesh, and Blood?
So it's the same thing as in the previous. It helps the army identity to be quick and set up charges because it goes through and obviously takes half wounds. As you and I talk a lot, zonal terrain is not a thing we really see a lot. So like
Well,
maybe
so
other
we see
metas.
zonal terrain. It's just we don't see zonal terrain that does wounds.
Sorry, yes. So that part I don't think I've ever seen, and we'll see. But being able to charge through terrain and get the full benefits of inspired is huge. But it's what we have today. So this is
Okay, so not a
par for course,
change.
not a change.
Stays the same. Ice, flesh, and blood. All right. Cool. Well, I like it. I like that. So in Wadroon, which we already went over, like some of their abilities revolve around like kind of ignoring terrain or taking lesser effects from terrain, but there's like opportunity cost to it. And one could argue that faction choice is an opportunity cost, but like
Yeah.
having to take a certain supremacy ability or artifact or whatever is a little bit different from like your army just gets this. So I think this is cool, and yeah, charging through, hindering, and keeping inspired, kind of cool. Note that it doesn't let you keep impact hits. You still lose impact hits
Yes.
when you charge through terrain. It just lets you stay inspired, but still that's a little bit of a boost. So let's talk about Blood of the Einherjar. This, I think, used to be +1 attack when you took damage, and then flurry when you lost like half your stands or something, right?
Correct. Yeah, and
Okay.
that I think was the first faction fix to Nords, like way back when they're trying to find their faction identity. What you described was the first thing they kind of hooked at this at the
Okay.
Nords, and I feel that faction identity wise, I think a lot like Nord players will be upset by this because I feel like a lot of people like the berserker image of Nords, and I think
Yeah.
the blood of the Ironheart is the way to that previously this was expressed. That said, I think this is good because when you're charging units on objectives, you probably want to be able to take it away from your opponent. I think this plays into the mission packs better, and I think this is a little wonky or a little less wonky and like, oh, did I lose half my guys? Do I get this? Do you know what I mean? And like, it probably
Yeah.
allows better balance because you don't have to be like, well, they're kind of bad until they take damage. Well, now they took damage, now they're good. So I think like this is a better game state, but I do think players will feel sore that they lost their +1 attack and ability.
I will say I did like the ability. I liked the design space of the ability, maybe not necessarily for Nords because I know a big thing in this update was getting them into that always be charging playstyle. I
Yeah.
thought Blood of the Einherjar before was nice because it was like I did the math, and for most, if not all regiments, if you took like a 6 block, if you took a little bit of damage, you got like a pretty big buff. If you took a lot of damage, you evened out to like where you initially were to begin with. And so it basically meant that you had like this sweet spot where you wanted to be, but until like the very end you were like still doing consistent damage. I liked that, but I don't think a lot of people like to bring like 6-man blocks of raiders and stuff. I think this is cool. I do want to note this means that people like light regiments can score.
Yep.
When they
As long as
charge,
they
it's
score on
1,
objective, yeah.
which it can be pretty hard to leverage that. All right, that was Blood of the Einherjar.
Yep.
Prophecy Unfulfilled. Is this a brand new? No, this one did exist before, but it has an
So
addition.
correct, yeah. So the
Yes.
the first part, which is +2 to charge when engaged, friendly non-monsters, blah blah blah. That was in the previous edition. The new thing is, in addition, when a regiment in this army performs a successful charge against an enemy regiment, you get +1 resolve. It's important to note the first part is typed to non-monsters. The second resolve is not typed. So anytime anyone does a charge, you get a
Oh.
+1 resolve. Um, I think it's good because it's just more. But in general, I think this is a rule that people are going to forget, or you're going to do a charge and you're not going to get the attack back. Especially with some of the
Yeah.
changes to things like lethal demise and other things that used to cause resolve, no longer cause resolve hits. This feels more conditional. It's like not a bad thing. It's just not game changing, I don't think.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it'll come up much for a number of reasons. So, Blooded and Vargar Lord. We're getting into the supremacies now, so let's talk about the Blooded and Vargar Lord supremacy call. The Hunt, I believe this one is the same as before. I
So
can't
it
remember
is
if Vargar Lord had a unique one and now got folded in or not.
no, I have I didn't update my app so I could go check all this.
Okay.
The change here, and I think this is a good change. This is going to be my hot take of the video. Before, a lot of these supremacies we're going to go over were untyped, and now they added a type to it. And the
Yeah.
reason I think that's better is subfactions now have better subfaction identity, right? Like the half bloods work better with half bloods. If you go all mortals, you're incentivized to go all mortals. So like I think it technically is weaker because it hits less stuff. I think it's a better
Oh,
design
right.
space.
This used to be any friendly regiment.
Correct. You used to be able
Oh.
to every time you picked when you did your reinforcements, you got two. Now it has to be half blood. So like what I think you're going to see is armies that don't play around in the middle, where they're going to go like heavy half blood, heavy mortals, or maybe heavy giants. We'll see about that last one. But I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
it's thematically better. And I also when we get down to the characters' warbands, the warbands have been replaced with just what they had when the game launched to things that more echo the subfaction of either half bloods or mortals. So like functionally, like technically this is weaker. Functionally, I think the way you were using it is probably similar.
Yep. Jarl used to just give all your guys opportunists. Now it does something with tribal tactics, and I think that it's going to be hard to talk about this without talking about tribal tactics. So, do you want to give a quick overview of what that entails?
Yeah, so tribal tactics are things that Jarls and Conungers have. On the first reinforcement phase, you pick what one of three tribal tactics you have, and then it applies to the regiment that character is attached to. If you pick a Jarl, then that is actually radiated not just to the regiment, but the entire mortals in the army. The important part to note, and we'll cover all the tribal tactics when we get down to the Jarl, but if you pick they do have one, and I took notes, and I'm not. Draw them in. If you pick tribal tactic, draw them in. It lets you have opportunists. So like, if you like what Jarl did before, you can mimic it 100%, except on mortals. If you want other stuff, when we get to tribal tactics, we'll talk about the other two options.
But so what seems cool about this one is you just said that you pick it in the first reinforcement phase. So like after you know what your opponent is and even like their army composition, like and even no reinforcements phase. Does it specify the timing on like whether that happens before or after the command stack or sorry the reinforcement rolls are made? Okay, at the beginning of the reinforce. Okay, never mind then.
Yeah.
Okay. Still cool. Still lets you counterpick your opponent's army based on like your own game knowledge. We'll take a deeper dive into those later on to see how
Yeah.
much counterpicking they can actually like achieve, because it's really
And
more of a Jarl or Coninger thing than it is like a raid tactics thing. So let's talk
Right, and
about.
the one thing I'll say is the way that's raid tactics worded is if you take a Jarl and then you apply your tribal tactic to everything, and one of your units is a Konagar who has another tribal, I believe they stack. I see no reason they wouldn't
Oh,
stack.
okay. It'll be interesting. We'll see if they have access to the same tribal abilities. But
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
Ruler of Mannheim, this literally just interacts with that army ability. It expands it to all friendly regiments rather than just infantry or non-monster.
Correct. If you do
Cool.
monster mash, this is what you pick. Uh, I'm gonna say something like it's +2 charge is great. You want it. I do think in general this feels strictly worse than um, +1 terrifying to anything that charges. Like the old Conagar helped everything. This is
Except for
very.
against Old Dominion.
You're right. Okay, sorry. Against
Yeah.
Old Dominion, it was yes, but terrifying is really good. You want to be charging, but this just makes your monsters more. Um, if you set this up, they get the +2 charge that it is, which is great. We all love charges. We like more consistent charges. So it's great.
It's
I like terrifying though.
I think it's a little strange because it's like Ruler of Mannheim and it interacts with Jotnars exclusively. Like it doesn't interact with the Chosen. You'd think that the Konungur would have like a Chosen buff, but this is a giant buff,
Correct. It
which
feels like they didn't want to give the giant character a warlord, so they kind of say if you take that, you're just going to run this guy, right? Like it doesn't. The Conagar is supposed to be the like leader of the chosen and stuff. That just helps his restricted, and then the giant he brings along, the character giant he brings along.
all right, let's now play this tiniest wah 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 in the world for the shaman supremacy just being removed from the game. He had a pretty good one. I liked it. It's gone. He's not got the same one as the vulva, which is you can say it and then you can tell me what you think about it.
Okay, so what did so wait, first I want to just double down because my notes say rip Vanguard to two
Yeah,
units a turn. So
it's
I'm
very
glad you picked up
sad.
on it. Because I liked that and I thought it was an interesting game space, but I especially with the doubling down on charges of the new faction identity, it probably become problematic. So what this does is still give +1 evasion to all friendly regiments. Yet once again, for everything else is typed, this is untyped. So no matter if you're half blood or mortal, you get this.
Yep.
In addition, there's a second conditional, which is if a friendly regiment is within range of an objective, then you can cast spells on them, ignoring range or line of sight, as long as the range is not self. So you can cast spells on things by objectives, which seem good. So like its faction identity seems pretty well set. You want to be charging, and you want to be charging objective zones, and this just reinforces that.
All right. So besides the keyword, the the Half Blood's battlefield role, what all has really changed about the Blooded, if anything? He looks pretty much the
Okay,
same. High clash,
wrong,
high
wrong.
attacks.
Strictly worse. Okay, I have
Oh,
this. I have the notes. -5 points. Fine. -1 volley used to be volley 2.
that doesn't matter.
So who cares? +1 clash, way better. Minus
Oh,
one attack, which I think is what actually makes this worse. It also
oh.
lost its barrage. It had a very basic barrage, which was just pure utility. Like, do you know what I mean? Like having the
Hmm.
option to do some range is always better than not. So losing that, like, yeah,
Unless
I
it's
think that
Zone Mortalis for Horus Heresy.
yeah,
Or
that's
actually,
true.
really any Horus Heresy, like having pistols, is not good.
That's
Sorry,
correct.
sorry. I'm digressing. I'm digressing.
But
So,
so like I think losing volley and the range attack is immaterial.
right.
I think that is the +1 clash and -1 attack scrum out maybe, but there was so many ways to buff everything. It felt like you
Yeah.
wanted to roll, especially with like some of the magic items. It felt like you just wanted to double down on the amount of attack. So like I feel that feels worse, but like it's fine.
So that is something to mention. He used to be able to be dragon aspect, wolf aspect, raven
Yeah.
aspect, etc. He there's no aspects anymore. You don't get those like small character upgrades. Dragon was the one that I think gave you +1 clash. That seems
Which
rolled into his
everyone
profile, but he
correct.
lost an attack for the sin, so that's pretty bad. How about the
The other thing I'll
warband?
say that both this and the Vargalord have is this character can join any half-blood. So you can
Oh
get
yeah.
around. So he can join like Ogres and stuff like that, which is kind of cool.
Oh.
Yeah, which is nice. It seems like they're doing more of that. Now, when we talk about changes in the warband, um,
I noticed that
it's
he's got a new regiment, the Werwargses.
yes. So there's a few things. So first off,
I'm
I
making a
think.
joke about the typo. You answered
Oh,
so
sorry. Yes, because it's
earnestly.
got two S's.
Yeah, I
So
had
like
to let you know that I was making a joke.
the thing that I think happened is we're seeing a lot of these older characters that just had the hiring pool was what they had in the model range at the time be changed to actually reflect the sub faction.
Yeah.
So Blooded used to have Bosun.
Bosun. Yeah.
Yeah, so now they don't.
They're
And then
gone.
they got rid of the Nefer Beast Pack and it's been replaced with Goldturp, but that's happened for a bit. So like that's a change.
Okay.
So I like it.
All right.
Give me sub factions.
Jarl. That's a lot of attacks. That looks higher than before.
Nope, same number of
Oh,
attacks.
really? And the
Yep,
blooded lost attacks. Wow, interesting. Okay.
correct.
Um,
Everything's the same here. There's two changes. One, it is technically, sorry, it's 5 points more expensive. It used to be 95. It's now 100 here. So
okay.
slightly more expensive. But what it got for that is tribal tactics. So I think this is just all up better. So we went over draw them in first, which is it gives the attached regiment opportunist, exactly like his old supremacy. Direct assault lets the attached regiment act as a heavy when it comes to damaging objectives, so that means it can do 2 damage instead of one.
Oh, that's pretty nasty for like raiders and stuff.
Correct. And
It
then
wow.
take the flank when this character stand is in regiment's flank or rear. They do not count for seizing objectives, which seems
Oh.
wild if you can set that up. Just straight up, like you can now throw MSUs at like huge blocks of stuff that you have no chance of attack of killing or monsters, and just be like, yeah, I don't care. It counts as nothing,
I wonder if
which is
that's
wild.
I wonder if that's strictly better than opportunists because opportunists like yeah, it gives you rerolls to hit, but against certain targets like even rerolling hits aren't going to benefit you that much. Like
Enough, especially if some base units might have flurry and other. You know what I mean? So I think,
yeah.
and the one thing I want to double down on is I see no reason you can't take a Jarl, take something like take the flanks, give it to everyone, and then have a Konagar or a second Jarl lead and take direct assault, and then that direct assault now can go.
Spicy. That's
Yeah,
spicy. That's really, really cool. And it's always active regardless of whether they're currently on the battlefield or having been
yep,
destroyed.
yeah.
Wait,
So I like that. I like a lot, and the
so if the character gets destroyed, the regiment still has the rule. No, but they all say currently attached to.
so the difference is
Oh,
I
that's
think
weird. Okay. I think that
yeah.
they're just like really protective wording, which is fine.
Yeah.
Forward force. Did he have that before? It gives the unit flank.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
He lost Ugars, I notice.
Yeah, I was gonna say Lost Ugars, Blade Chosen haven't existed for a while, so he's got Steel Chosen in their steed. That's it. Yep. So yeah, once again, I think
Is
it's
Ulfidnar a new mainstay for them, or was it always mainstay?
uh I was mainstay
Oh,
sorry, at least as
as
of
of the
the last
previous
update.
version.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
All right, Conan Gear.
Okay, so
7 attacks, Clash 4. Woof, woof.
yeah, so this one is interesting because it picked up a bunch of keywords or special. So the main stats all the same. It picked up Cleave 1, Terrifying 1, and Impact 3 because it had none of those. And I think the reason it had those is you used to essentially get that by taking 3 treasure troves. So I think they just gave it and then reduced treasure troves to 2, which I think
Oh,
is
okay.
probably a better design space because people went nuts picking bad picks. So I think this probably protects people from hurt from making bad lists.
Yeah.
And like terrifying was kind of what he got from his ability. So like I think this is like it's like technically an upgrade because it's like he gets stuff he didn't, but I think with the way people ran, it's kind of a side grade,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I remember people. I don't think in the previous version, but the version before that, I remember like 290 point Konungers with like mastery and like 3 items and
Yeah,
aspects. Okay.
people
Um,
love to see it.
Lost the non-chosen and gained nothing, right?
Yeah, so Blade Chosen was a thing that used to. It's not a unit that exists. It's just Steel Chosen. So like functionally no change.
Okay. Jarls still have Huskarls. All right. Functionally no change. Cool. Shaman. Shman.
I know they've been removed for a while, but they're still listed in the old app. This is exactly the same. Everything's the same. The only thing that's different from the old app is White Waste Tribesmen are dead. And I know they've been dead for a while, but I have to be remiss. Para Bellum, if you watch this, I want them. Please bring them to me. Give me them as a
R.I.P.
sub faction. Otherwise, the same. It's just new spells.
Yeah. R.I.P. And he's okay. He's mortal. His warband seems kind of silly. It seems like you
It's
bring one of them with a raider and maybe a Jotnar. I don't know. Like, does he join Bearsarks or Ulfidnar? Do you think? Maybe we talk about that with the regiments.
yeah, yeah.
Well, it'll probably make more sense in the context of his spells.
It's a spell because it feels like what you do is you just throw him with something that sits in the back, and then use him if him or the Volva are your leads, then you just have him cast spells
Yeah.
onto the things sitting on objectives. I don't think you ever want him in combat.
Volva made me remember the devout is a rule.
Yeah,
So
which
that's
did
cool
not
on
used to
her
have.
part. She
Did
didn't
not
have
used to have
devout?
devout. Nope. It was attached to a unit that had devout, and that's how
Oh,
she picked up
okay.
devout.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
you might want to look at something and say, "Hey, Brandon, it's attack 5. That seems good. It's one better than it was before."
Oh, so she's a melee fiend.
Correct.
No
Now
cleave
this,
or anything though.
nope. And I just want to go back to the blooded. This is why it's weird the blooded lost because everything else, like a lot of other stuff, picked up attacks, and he lost some
Yeah, I mean
attacks.
Shaman is attack 3, but Koninger is 7, Jarl is 6.
Yeah.
So Volva and Blooded having the same level of attack, kind of weird. Um, okay, I guess not
Iron
much else
Pool
to talk about
is
her.
exactly the same, so we can go to the next.
Okay, Vargir Lord,
Uh,
Flurry to all the beast pat. What? So it's kind of weird that they didn't make a keyword just for these guys. Like you could have half bloods and like beast pack
I
as a
was gonna say the
keyword, so
way
you
this
didn't
rule
have to
should
write
have
this
been.
out.
Yeah, 100%. This should have been things with Beast Pack, and those three should have got Beast Pack. 100%.
Yeah.
This is technically better than the current rule because the current rule only has Werwargs and Fenner, so Galter's just picked up Flurry.
Oh.
So that's good. This unit, Vargalord, gained +1 attack. Yet once again, doubling down on weird by blood
Hey,
lost
but
one.
it
But
doesn't
yeah,
have Clash 4 because he's unskilled.
you're right.
He's not as
That's
skilled.
that's design space, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Goler Beast is now in mainstay.
Oh, he could join. He could join
He has the
cavalry.
exact opposite, which is he can join regular
Anything.
dudes. Yeah. Yep.
Anything. Technically, if there was a half-blood monster regiment, this would allow him to join it, and that would get wacky. So let's hope that they remember that if they ever add half-blood like monster regiment. Speaking of monster regiments, Jotnar Seidr. Seed. So I heard somewhere. This is completely unrelated, but I heard somewhere
Yeah.
that like the R at the end of like Norse words, like this was in the context of Skyrim with like Draugr. I
Oh,
heard that the R isn't actually pronounced, and I don't know if that's specifically like the GR. Like I think Draugr, where like the real pronunciation would be Drog or Dreg or something like that. So I wonder if this is Jotnar Seed or Sade or something like that. So
I can
That's
believe that.
we'll never know. We'll never know. Parabellum's good at using like interesting language. I've noticed with a lot of their things because it's not exactly the parent language, and
Correct,
like
but it's not as bastardized as like 40K's High Gothic or
right.
whatever.
And like I know that the Dwegum use a lot of Proto-Indo-European, which is a unique thing for dwarves. Anyways, this is me being a little bit of a language nerd going off. I actually don't know that much about Nordic languages, so I don't know if this would be like Jotnar Seid or Seed or like you would pronounce the R after all. Anyways, let's talk about the actual stats. I'm scared.
Not
20
from
wounds,
what I can
hardened
tell,
1. Come on.
nothing's changed from what's in the previous app. So I assume
Well,
this was designed for.
however, we have never once done a hot take on this unit because
Oh,
it
okay.
came
You're
out
right. You're
since
right.
our last. So I feel like it's worth talking about. Like let's hear your
No, you're right. We
unadulterated.
owe the people a take that's
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah.
Uh Seems good for 280 points. I don't know where to start because
Seems
it
good.
seems good all the
Okay.
way down. Yeah, like 20 can you scroll up yeah, so defense 3 E2 is what you want, right? Cuz you want that downward stickiness with evasion.
It,
Obviously you
it
can't
takes
get plus
cleave 3 to do
cur,
anything to you.
which is great.
And then
The
fearless R4 and
Yep.
tenacious built in. Like this thing is I I think that this
If
thing's more durable than a Tantor.
Oh, 100%. And I think you're forgetting the juice. If you charge the round that you charge, you're up to R5. R5 tenacious. You're not taking
Oh
anything.
my god.
And if you take the Conager, then your move 7 plus 2 for charge if you set it up right plus D6. So you got up to 15-inch threat, which is pretty crazy.
And it counts as 6 for objectives. This does
Yep.
feel good. 280 feels pretty expensive, but it feels like a solid use of 280.
Yep.
I
And
guess the downside is it must include at least one other regiment, and
yeah,
so you're spending at
this
least 500, like 490 points.
correct, but if you're doing this, you want in on monsters, and he buffs monsters. So I think the bad part is you're going to have to take someone else. You're going to probably take Conagar, but the Seizing the New Future means all of your Titans gain Fearless, which is great. While within range of objective zone, that's where they want to be playing.
Ooh.
Yeah, and they ignore rules that count them for less stands for seizing objectives.
Whoa. Well,
Yep.
they're in contact with an enemy regiment, so they do have to be fighting.
The one question, yeah, this is great because the tribal tactic that lets you flank ignore charging actually plays into other Nords terribly with this, right? Because you charge from the flank and you actually don't reduce them because of this rule. The tribal tactic that when you're
No, I think that you do because the Tantor specifically says that they don't that it ignores the special effects of rules or abilities that would have for them count as less stands or no stands.
Oh, this does not say. There you go.
So I don't know if that's just a weird wording thing, but my hot take. So last in the Wadron
I would
one,
take it
you
that way.
said that it seems like there's very deliberate wording going on, so I'm gonna
It
use
does.
those against you. Very
No,
deliberate
I agree.
wording.
That's
Yeah.
I agree.
Um, Crushing
The second
Avalanche.
Yeah,
Whew.
this is great. If you're going to be taking this guy, you're probably going to be taking a bunch of big boys. If you have a bunch of titans, you want to be doing brutal, and +1 brutal is great, and +2 impacts is great, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, this what you want.
This is just basically letting it like function in the game.
Correct.
So
Yes.
we can skip past that. Um, so okay, here's where the hot take comes in. I think
Yes.
Scourge or Dory. I have
So
opinions on this.
yeah, I think I'm gonna go with my I think incorrect take, my initial take, because I think you converted me, which is Dory the spear gives you unyielding, which is always important because unyielding is a good thing to have all the time. Where Scourge is conditional. Now you take
Yeah.
off because I think you show me the light.
So Scourge, since it's free, it's only opportunity cost. I think spending the opportunity cost to get the flexibility, like the new unique option of just being able to march charge a 7-inch, possibly, depending on your army list, like a 9-inch march, or sorry, a 7-inch march followed by a plus 2-inch charge if like something else is already engaged with the objective marker. Although, as I'm saying this, that seems unlikely because you are more than likely going to have done some amount of damage, which reduces the value of this. But just the ability to being able to like march charge at least 15 inches away into an objective and just instantly destroy it with your impact hits, that feels like a super powerful option with like no setup, very little warning. Like you just have to be within like 15 to 18 inches of it, and you're just like, go, let's go, let's get there. Um,
I
it
enough of the
feels like a
missions.
very powerful ability, and no, not every single mission has an objective marker, and not every objective marker, like not every game is going to have you in a position where like killing an objective marker is going to matter that much. But for the times that it does matter,
Yeah,
go ham. Unyielding is a great rule and all, but Scourge
I,
seems more interesting and unlocks bigger swing plays.
it lets you steal like partially wounded objective markers from an opponent. I also think
Yes.
I've seen a lot of games where objective markers have totally stalemated big units that have to spend a ton of activation fighting their way out of it. It feels nice to just like hit it and then
Yeah.
do it like then be able to like open up the battlefield. So I agree with you.
Yep. All right. Let's talk about Trove-finds. We're looking at Raven messengers here. Mortals. Why does it specify character stands only? I wonder because only character stands can take,
That
unless
does
it's like
seem
supposed to be read together like mortal. No, but even then, like you would just have to say mortals only. Okay.
it's yeah it's
Interesting. Very interesting. I'm just gonna check real quick. Like,
because the
okay, Konungur are exalted, so you cannot Raven Messengers Konungur anymore. That used to be the combo.
correct. Yep.
Uh, I don't know. Is there anything else to say about it?
No. I mean, that
Yeah.
was the trick everyone did. You can't do that trick. It doesn't say, I don't think there's anything that really hits Exalted, so just be a thing to be aware of. It's a subfaction that's looking for a home.
Oh, yeah. It's the giant subfat. Okay. Coils the Serpent, $20. Regiment gets +1 evasion, maximum of
It's,
2. Cool.
it's exactly the same as what it was before.
But I mean, it does seem kind of cool with Valkyrie ability. You can bring a regiment from 0 evasion to 2 evasion. Seems nice. 20
Yeah.
points seems nice. Herald of the Storm. They nerfed this one bad. What I remember this being, and it might have been changed in the previous update, but at one point it was just like enemy spellcasters cannot cast for a turn.
Herald of Storms, can only be resolved once per battle. Spell casting actions cannot be formed until the end of the round, so it just shut off
Yeah,
spell casting.
this is less impactful. It probably needed to be less impactful because, especially with the advent of Sorcerer Kings,
Oh,
it
I
feels
didn't even think
very
about that.
unfair to just completely shut down their magic, at
Yeah,
least
for
with like
30 points.
scaling.
Just
Yeah,
in the middle of the game being like, just
yeah.
don't do anything this turn.
Oh, you just put 2 conflagrations into your stack? Oh, sorry, you can't actually spell cast this turn. Unfortunate. Um, Figurehead of the Naglfar, Tenacious
So
3 is interesting.
yeah, so the Stannis currently becomes a target of an enemy. So you have to get volleyed to get tenacious.
Yes.
So before it
Huge.
lets you reroll successful hits. Um,
I feel like this is way more impactful.
I was gonna say this is like the only. Yes, I think this is more impactful. I think there's like a world where people will squint and be like, "But I got to reroll their ones on the bosun into threes or something," and it's like,
Which is
sure, you.
good, but that's niche compared to
Oh,
just
correct. It's also gonna be
3 attacks
biased.
are gone.
Yeah, I
Every time you get shot at, 3 attacks are gone
100. Yeah, I think this is better. I think there's gonna be
for
niche
20
cases people will
points.
get sad about, but this is better. Yeah. Also,
That's
it's way easier to play. Like I'm gonna step back and take the 30 seconds. Like abilities that are powerful and quick, I think are important because like
yeah.
having people reroll and reroll and reroll during like tournaments is annoying. Not because it's like you don't want the effect of it, but it just lengthens things. This
Yeah.
feels functionally the same or more powerful and much more easy to resolve. So I like it.
Tyjackal, the Reinhardt, this is tenacious, but also for everything instead of just volley. That seems interesting. Are there any? We'll find out if there's any regiments that can get this up to the cap of 2. But I
Yep,
like
and
this.
this is way better than the old version of this, which was I mean, granted the old one was way cheaper, but it was like, oh, when you take damage, you get +2 defense. Well, it
Oh
felt like
boy.
uber dual tech. This seems like something that's just better. Like, yeah.
Yeah, usable. Massive frame, impact +2, and line breaker on the character. How do you feel about that?
I like impacts because I like move charge, so I think this is better. Before and line breaker gets around shields, which is nice. Before it was essentially tenacious, so like this is better.
Yeah, fair.
Or
Uh,
not better, but I feel this is unique when there's the other item that gives tenacious and other things. So I think this has a place to be on a charge character.
yep. Rio. I actually don't know what that character is. I've always said Rio Da, but this looks like it's a different sound. It's probably like Ruta, Ruta the Red Bringer. That's what I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna say that this makes a T sound and O with an apostrophe over it makes a U sound. That's what I've just decided. I don't know anything about the Nordic languages. Granted,
So
O with an apostrophe is not a Nordic specific character, but
this this got kind of a very big side
it
grade,
used to
or
be
this is different.
Bloodlust. Bloodlust
Yeah,
doesn't exist anymore.
correct. And I liked it because you could put it on characters and then you could do cheeky charge from off. Not that I did it a lot. Sorry. If you combined it with a shaman and bloodlust, you could charge off the table, blah blah blah. That's not a world we live in. So now this costs 10 points more. It gives you impact 2, which we like impact if you don't already have it. Some characters do. It gets a +2 attack characteristics, which it always had, and I actually think that it can always die fighting, regardless of if it's acted or not, is really interesting, especially if you put it on a character who's good at fighting. Like putting this on a blooded, so you're up to 7. You get to attack. If they kill you, you get to attack again. They have basically two. That seems good.
Yeah, for 30 points. Yeah. Vinda the Dancer hasn't changed, right?
Nope.
Raingare. This
Oh,
used to
sorry.
give impact.
Vinda got 10 points cheaper, so that is a
Oh,
change. But yeah.
wow. How about Raingare? Raingire.
So it is 5 points more expensive. The character stand gains parry and cleave 2, which is better than brutal impact 2 and impact +3.
Okay, wow.
So yeah, it's the cleave tech.
Uh, moving on into the Masteries. Teachings of Mannheim. All right, they've changed all. Like it used to be like combat, arcane tactics. Wait, I'm checking something. Single mastery of any category. Like, do they ever refer to these categories by names though?
I don't think
It
so.
says all are single mastery of any category for any of them. And
Correct.
then the masteries themselves have limits on who can actually take them. Okay. I think I liked, just for simplicity's sake, that the limits
It
were fairly rare and it was just like, you can take a combat mastery. I'm not sure if I like this new paradigm, but okay, Lessons of the Jotun War. What did the
yeah.
Konungir and Jarl specifically learn about the Jotun War?
Makes sense because they were the ones fighting it. Once per battle, at the beginning of this character's stand activation, you may change the character's tribal tactic until the end of the battle. I believe this would allow your Jarl to actually change his supremacy, which is I think where it's interesting.
No, yeah,
Otherwise,
that sounds like what you could do is you could have your entire army like destroy objectives better, and
and
then
then
once all the objectives are destroyed, then you're like, all right, it's opportunist time, or I'm not gonna let you hold zones anymore time. That's
correct.
an interest for 30 points. That could be game changing if you know how to use that well.
Correct. But I would only put this on a Jarl, just like straight up. I can't imagine a world where you would spend 30 points to flip a tactic for an Econogur's attached, Bosun or Steel Chosen or whatever.
That is true. This really, this
It feels
the
like
value,
Supremacy or bust.
yeah, the value is mitigated by like the number of units that it can affect. Wealth of 100 raids. What does being rich give mortals and exalted? Which is Jarls, Shaman, Volva,
And
and Coninger.
Conagar,
So
yeah.
like Warg Lord and Blooded don't get
Are
this.
half-bloods, yeah. So this gives them Dauntless. Which one's Dauntless again?
That's
Dauntless. The
unfortunate.
regiment can never be broken and is always counted as inspired.
That's pretty good. 30 points can never be broken and is always inspired.
Yep. I think if you put on the
Interesting.
right attached unit, it's probably good. Or
I
it
guess
is
it
good.
yeah, I guess it does depend on the unit. All right, let's talk about the Northern Sagas. Written in Bones. What's written in Bones?
So this is deliberate wording, we think.
Yep, it
25
has it.
points. This character's regiment attached to this character cannot be counted as less stands for the purpose of seizing, or none at all. So this would get around getting charged by the ability that makes you count as nothing. So yeah, we let. So in general, 25 points for this probably feels good if it's a unit that you want sitting on objectives, probably like Huskarls or something like that. Maybe trolls, but like if you're gonna have a guy who's gonna sit on an object or a unit that sits on an objective and is supposed to score, 25 points feels good to make sure that plan goes off in an objective-based mission pack.
All right, Ancestor's Blessing. This is a defensive draw event tech, so we have made our thoughts known on those many, many times. We're not even going to talk about it. Tales of Savagery. Unless,
Uh, yeah.
unless you had something really
No, no,
important
no,
to.
no,
Okay.
no. I
Wild
feel the same way.
Beasts. You can do impact attacks through hindering terrain. See,
Yeah,
this is Chekhov's gun. Earlier on, we were like, "Oh, I said you only keep the inspire through hindering terrain. Look at that. For 40 points, you can flip me off right to my face."
I think I would only put this on Vargalord because I think they have a lot more beast packs that are going to get flurry and you're going to want to charge up. I don't know if I would pay this I to get like Raiders impact. You know what I mean?
Right. No, you're going to use this to get Golter
Correct. Yeah.
impact hits because they're the only
Because
ones
40
like
is
with
expensive.
because you need really valuable impact attacks. Oh, it's
Yeah.
everyone in the war band. It's not just who you join. So
Correct.
so
But I
you
still feel for 40 points you get this on fucking
direct, yeah.
Giants. You get this on Giants. Okay, you put on a guy who's bringing two restricted Giants. The
Wait,
Giants can impact.
giants aren't half bloods? Aren't they exalted?
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. Yeah, Goldher. I think that's
Yeah, that's
yeah.
you
Okay,
take
you're
a lot
right.
of Golter. All right, pack tactics. This feels really bad. In the Wadrun one, I think in the Wadrun video I expressed incredulity of about the irregular special rule being such a nothing burger, or maybe we were talking about that offline. But
I
paying
agree.
40 points to get rid of a nothing burger of a rule,
Yeah,
garbage.
I'm with you.
Hot
Yeah.
hot take. Comment why I'm wrong, but insane to
Yeah,
pay
just
40 points
to
for
step
this.
back for everyone, like irregular makes you can't not set reinforcement lines. I'm finding in general, especially you don't have the shaman to vanguard you up halfway through the table that you're going to reinforce in a way that's meaningful once you do the turn. Like it just
Yeah.
feels like you're doing a lot of setup to do something that doesn't feel that super useful.
All right, let's try to go through the spells fairly quickly because I don't
Yeah.
remember. Like none of them caught my eye. Like just, but in your notes, like, do you have any that particularly stand out to you? Otherwise, I'll just speed run through these. Like, is there anything that
Um,
you wanted to specifically talk about?
no, I didn't have anything huge. Let me go take my notes. Uh, no, nothing really. I mean, they got Hoarfrost does is armor pierce one hit per success. Sorry, stepping back, you and I've talked outside of these videos that it feels like every faction now has a more generally available damage
Damage
spell.
spell, yeah.
Hoarfrost is this. This feels a little bit better than generic because it at least has. Yes, it's only one hit per success, but you got AP1, so like in the design space, it's slightly better than what we did with the Wadrun. Um, Other than that, I'm trying to see anything. So I think the reason this gets interesting is when we look at the ability. If you take the shaman's ability, I'm just going to talk through these in an aggregate, not one at a time. If you
Yeah.
take shaman or Volva, you can do things to friendly regiments on objectives without line of sight. And I think that's opened up a lot of space because you can miss weave, so you can give +1 evasion up to +2. You get +1 if you're one of those guys already. You have the ability to heal with the fruits of the golden tree, so you can keep people on objectives longer. You have the ability with Gloria of Valhalla to give Indomitable. So and then you can also throw Blessed if you want to have a unit reroll defenses. So I think that the spells in general, I don't think are super interesting. I think the fact that you can now take these spells and have the objectives all over the place and be hitting the spells on the people you want
From the
is
back
interesting.
line. Yeah, that's fair.
Exactly.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, into the regiments themselves. This is the juice, the meat and potatoes, the juice and meat and potatoes of this video. The regiments, Raiders, Tenacious. Wow, isn't that great?
So
Built in.
they got 10 points more expensive and then 5 points more per stand. And for that, they get +1 move, which of course they want that.
Oh, geez, that's huge.
Yeah, an army that's all about charging and has ways of getting. Yeah, they have built-in standard bearer, which is even better for their movement shenanigans. Where
Mm-hmm.
before they had to pay 15 points. So yes, they cost a little bit more, but for that you're getting the benefits. And then Tenacious. Tenacious 1 is really good. It's going to make them stick around a lot longer. Yep.
Yeah, crazy. They have the officers. We'll talk about the art because Nords are one of the rare factions which have like a bunch of officers, kept a lot of officers, and also
Correct.
like those officers exist in like multiple regiments. So
Correct.
unless I'm gonna say I should have mentioned this to you beforehand, but unless you
Yep.
have in like your notes a specific interaction with a regiment where you're
So
like
we should
this
talk about
regiment
those at the
pops
end.
off. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
The one thing I'll say is Isaac says if a regiment has 2 officer upgrades, it's a gentleman's option because it gives choices. And I
This is
think
not.
Nords probably have the best amount of those because, oh, they can take 2. Never
Yeah,
mind.
so this is not a gentleman's regiment. It doesn't have to choose. You can take both. Um, Bosun, you know them, you hate them. They're the one of the most powerful ranged bogeymen in the game. They're down to 14 inches, which is that a downgrade or were they 14 inches in
They
the
were
last?
14. They have the same barrage, same
Okay,
items, same precision shot. Everything's the same there.
okay,
Um,
but okay, this all chosen have this War Brethren special rule, which
yes,
means that if they're in a Koningir's warband, they gain his tribal tactic, which means that that tribal tactic changing ability actually gets a little bit more value.
correct. Yeah, that's
So,
fair. But still, whatever. I stand
okay.
by. It's that a bit that you can't double up on treasures. That feels like you want to throw it on a Jarl
These
for the
guys
Supremacy.
specifically, if you're 7 inches away with move 6, if you're 7 inches away from a
Oh,
objective
Jarls don't
marker,
hit these guys.
no.
Jarls because they're exalted. They're not mortal.
Right.
So yeah. So you're
But
right. That's
it,
why Conagar are good.
if you have a Koninger, you give it tribal tactic for counts as heavy. If you're within
Yep.
7 inches at the start, you shoot, do 2 damage, charge. You have enough clash where like you are pretty reliably going to take down that. And then you switch to opportunists because a ranged unit with opportunists is really good, especially with volley 3. Volley 3, wow.
Volley 3 is good. The range is obviously your danger close, but you're right.
Speaking of Volley 3, Stalkers only have Volley 2. Let's talk about Stalkers. Everybody hates
Okay,
them. Why?
so dude, I don't understand what they're trying. So here's why I hate stalkers is in the previous editions when I was playing them a lot, I used stalkers with their vanguard to hold the middle objective and act as speed bumps and harassers. I just don't know what current stalkers do in what's their use. So yes, they're 20 points cheaper and 10 points per stand, but they have lost one one volley, so that's fine. They lost one resolve, which like okay. Uh, and then for this they didn't. They lost Vanguard and pick up Opportunist, which is like cool. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what these guys are supposed to do anymore, because like the way the flank Opportunist and Barrage feels like they're supposed to shoot from range or get wacky shot. I don't know, man.
I think Opportunist is a really good rule on a ranged regiment. 16 inches isn't that bad, and they're expensive enough where you aren't just going to totally throw them away, but they're cheap enough where you can have one hanging out on the flank. So like when the household knights or whatever are moving up, not only do you get like re-rolls, or like imagine this into city states where they're marching up and you have these guys off to the side. Obviously the like hoplite block that has shield and phalanx to the front are going to be way more concerned about the Jotnar that's directly in front of them. You
Yeah,
soften them up a little bit with these stalkers. You do some opportunist damage. I think opportunist is pretty good. These guys, everybody hates these. I think with move 6 and 16-inch range and opportunists, I think opportunist means that you can do like a 6-inch march up to get into the flank arc of someone and then
and
shoot at
instead of
them,
just
and you
aiming,
get the
yeah,
re-rolls, and then the next turn, like if you're still alive, which E2 means that you're hanging around. I don't hate these guys as much as anyone else does. I think they serve a purpose, and maybe they don't actually fit with the always be charging
they don't.
logic.
It's
Maybe they
and
don't fit with the greater game plan, but I think that like in other armies, this would certainly have a place. And maybe I'm just not Nord brained enough to see why these guys suck. But
so I
I
guess
like them.
half bloods don't get hit impacted by most Nord like like the half blood things that impact units don't really seem to want like affect stalkers like, and then they can't get +1 evasion because they're already maxed at 2. It's just it. You're probably right that these are good. I'm just trying to look for how these synergize, and
Hmm.
stalkers, for their credit, stand on their own, which is probably a benefit more than a detriment. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm looking for
Yeah,
the combo brain, and it's just not there because they're
yeah. I
probably just good enough on their own.
I,
Yeah, I
I
could see
think you
that.
bring them as a mainstay, but I maybe the mainstay competition is too fierce. That could
I,
be what I'm overlooking. But let's
yeah.
move on to the werewolves. Um,
So werewolves have gone up 10 points, and then but stayed the same per stand. They gained one wound, which is pretty huge in my opinion.
oh yeah.
Uh, yeah, they don't bloodlust don't exist, so they lost that. And they lost fearsome, but they picked up 2 extra impact and terrifying one. So,
Oh,
uh, yeah, I like
that's
them,
nice.
especially. Yeah, yeah, I like them. They got a good amount of attacks. I think they got the extra impacts and terrifying actually help a lot because I think
Yeah.
that'll like make them better at what they do. And then I think there's a lot of tech we saw with Vergalord and getting flurry and other stuff that I think can really push these to being even a better space. And like move 7, man, we love it. We love to see it on a brute that's hard, with all the benefits
Right.
and everything.
And I like going up to Impact 3 because with Clash 2, 1/3 of your like this is at least mathing out to one of your impacts will hit,
Yeah, Impact
which
1
I think is
is
better
necessary.
designed than yeah than one of your impacts on the entire regiment will hit. Ooh, wow, fun.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Bloodlust also made them very hard to control. Like you had to make checks to control them and blah
Oh,
blah blah.
50/50. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they're annoying. So I think now they're a lot more controllable, and like you said, they double down on the impact. And
I
yeah,
mean, giving them flurry too with the Vargar Lord,
yep,
that's pretty nice. Huskarls, these uh untouchable they've had for a while. I think untouchable finally made them appealing. I think when we first did our Nord's hot take, they had just gotten untouchable, and I said that they were
yep.
still I didn't like them, but were they move 6 in that before?
No, they weren't. So that's
They're
actually
move
okay.
6 now, and on top.
So
Now these guys are looking pretty spicy. Holy
so you're
crap.
yeah, you're not like going through the whole thing. So they get +1 move basic as a base, right? They have standard bears for free, right? Because before you had to pay 15 points because they're
Every standard bearer unit in Nords and Wadroon now have free built-in standard
correct.
bearers.
But
Just to be
I'm
clear.
trying to paint the picture why
Okay.
I hated Huskarls because like I felt they didn't get there. I think they were expensive and stuff. Now they're move 6, so they're base +1. When you move, you're going to get a little further up, so that helps them position earlier in the game. It gives them you know what I mean? Like it just makes them better at doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then they have this, yeah. Everything else is the same, and they're mortals, so there's a lot of ways to impact them with things like
Oh.
tribal tactics. Like Jarls can make these guys
Oh.
get opportunists. Now you got to slightly better at charging, blah blah blah.
That's okay. That's pretty interesting. But what's the most interesting is trolls. They have fallen pretty far from their heyday. Are they climbing back to the lofty heights they were once at, or are they still in the depths? What are your thoughts?
I think they're still in the depths. And that's because I wasn't taking them at 170 and now they're 180 base. The upgrade's the same, so they're just more expensive. There's some cute tech that helps half bloods, I guess, but like yeah.
Okay. And they didn't gain anything like attacks wise or like
Nope.
is
So
Oblivious
before
not
they
new?
were six move, one volley, two clash, five attacks, 6 wounds, 3 resolve, 2 defense, 1 evasion. They
Oh,
are the
okay.
same cleave, same regeneration. Like
All
the thing that
right.
I heard them is when they started, they were cleave 2, and that was
Yes.
really big.
Cleave 2 and
Now,
Regeneration returned entire stands. And they were
correct.
8 wounds a stand.
Correct. And I think like Oblivious isn't. You and I've talked about this in other places, but is just not as good, especially on a Resolve 3 item. Like if they had Tenacious or something else, which might push them over the top, but it's just like these guys still are not as tanky as I think other things are, and they're not really like yeah, they're more expensive. So like that's the biggest thing. I wasn't taking.
Regeneration also requires you to survive the initial hit. So,
Yep.
like, Wound 6 goes a lot of the way to making them survive that initial hit, but it's still like an MSU is 18 wounds, which I feel a lot of regiments can get through 18 wounds.
Yep.
Ulfhednar, 7. An MSU of these is throwing out 22 attacks. They have Vanguard and Tenacious Base. These guys are good, right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So these guys are in a drastically different design space. So I'm going to go through their old rules and like I can. I think this will be a flashpoint. I think they're way better. So in the old world, they were 190, so they were 20 points more expensive. They had 1 extra attack, and that was it. The difference is they had Bloodlust and they had Lethal Demise. So they were a throw it up the board
Okay.
and just get the charge off because you don't want to be fighting against Bloodlust. And then like when they die, they'll be exploding in the enemy's face, so it's fine. They are a very different unit now because Vanguard gets them up quicker, so they're going to get involved with stuff. And Tenacious Ones makes them more resilient. Yes, they lost 1 attack, but they lost 20 points. Like I think this is a better unit. Like I like this. I
Yeah.
Strix with Lethal Demise makes sense because they're cheap and they're really fast and they can fly. I would not have spent 190 on these dudes to just like
How many points
throw
was a
them away.
Strix? When you
How
say
many
they're
points?
cheap, weren't they 180?
No, they were 120 for Strix.
Oh, I don't know where I got the idea that they were 180. All right, well, moving quickly on from that embarrassment, Valkyries. Did they not have? I thought they had base evade 1 before.
Uh, no. So
Oh,
the reason you do is because I did the Nords thing, which is you
you
run
gave them
the
the item and the Volva Warlord. Okay,
correct, so you double them up.
unfortunate.
Yeah, the thing. So, these guys, I believe,
Girls.
are these
These
gals,
gals, thank
girls.
you. Thank you.
are exactly the same except for the important thing, which is they're move 5. Or sorry, move 6. So they went up one move, which is like
Ooh.
yeah, which is knight across the board. Everything else is the same costs. Sorry, 5 points more per stand for the upgrade, which is sure.
Yeah. Fenner
Oh,
Beast
and
Pack.
I guess they're mortal, so they can pick up tribal tech if you have a Jarl. So just as a
Oh,
interesting thing.
interesting. Fenner Beast Pack. These guys don't look like. Wait, did they pick up loose formation, or is that not new?
No, they've always had loose, or they had loose formation in the last update.
Oh, okay. Yeah, these guys are pretty solid. I've always liked them. People have always hated them. I like them worse and worse as their points go up and they gain more rules. Like at 105 points for mediums with flank and fluid formation, like and move 7, they were in my opinion perfect. I'm kind of glad that they moved up in points because they get weaker and weaker, as I said, when they gain points and special rules. Even if the special rules are also nice, I feel like 105 points, medium fluid formation, 7 March is like just so optimized. You can't get better than that. There's only to
Yeah,
go down from there.
and this has slight nerfs to it. So the reinforcement costs went up by 10 points per stand. So same base
We're,
cost, but it's now 50 as opposed to
who's taking
40.
it on MSU? Like, is
Just
that a
Avita.
nerf? That's a
No, no, the
non-factor.
other thing, there's two things. So I said there's two
All
differences. The other
right.
one, it lost Terrifying 1, which just feels like
Oh,
obnoxious that they had it. They didn't need it. Like it's
yeah, that
yeah,
was probably way too far in their favor because opportunists like encouraging you to get into the flank and then also terrifying.
correct. And especially if
Oof.
you're running these with the Vargur Lord, opportunists, you don't even just straight up charging them in the front with flurry and then Terrifying 1 is just bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. Oogers. I feel like these guys got pretty cheap, weren't they? 180 before, weren't they like comparable with trolls?
Nope. They were in the last update. They were 150. They lost
Oh,
5 points per stand, so they used to be 55 versus 50. They look exactly the same.
I think I hate them. I think I said in the previous Hot Takes Nord video that I like them. I think Cleave 2, Clash 3 is good, but with only
That's
Defense 2 and 5 wounds, it's not good enough. I think if they were at 5, maybe 6 attacks per stand, I think they would be enough of a glass cannon to justify the glass, but that I don't think that this stat line is enough cannon for the glass.
I agree. Like, because you can do janky stuff like put a character and have the evasion +1 worldwide buff to get them up to E2, but that's not
But even
enough.
then, that's still
Correct.
gonna
The
die
the
pretty quick.
the reason these things get run is because Cleave 2. The army
Yeah.
doesn't have a ton of Cleave 2 outlets. Like when you go to Giants, yes, but if you don't want to run the big boys, it's a
Yeah.
Cleave 2 cannon. But I agree with you. I don't love them.
Bearsark, speaking of Cleave 2, oh look, another unit with Cleave 2. What's funny about these guys is they on paper like are extremely similar to the Uger that we were just talking about, but the fact that they have tenacious and baseline evasion and resolve 4 for like against spellcasting.
Okay.
Oh, they're
Yes.
heavy. Never mind. I was going to say like these are Ugers, but like the stat line that you need like to make them that enough
So
less glass to justify their cannon. But the fact that they're heavy means I think
so
that they are worse off than Ugers,
yeah,
or
there's a lot of
about the same
lot of
off.
yeah. So there's a lot. So these guys are in a different play space because they were a bloodlust unit, so that went away. So the stat line is a lot different. So they used to be movement 5. They went up to 6, which I think is way better. They
Oh,
used to
huge.
have resolve of 5, which like sure, okay.
I
And they
think
used
every unit except for Ash and Dawn that had Resolve 5 lost Resolve 5. I think that they globally were like,
which is good,
no more.
which is good. I think right. The
Yeah.
one thing that is insane is old Bear Sarks. I think you would have hated because old Bear Sarks were 3 defense and 0 evasion, and I think this is
Oh.
Yeah, and then they had Linebreaker, Bloodlust, and Cleave too. So like this unit is very different than what it used to be.
Okay.
So the reason I like this better than Ugur's is yes, it's heavy, so it's going to come one turn later, but it has Vanguard so that it can counteract that. It also has a standard bearer, so the first turn it comes in, it gets to move a little bit more. Tenacious 1 means it's going to shrug off damage, which is way better than
That's 18 inches the
Oblivious.
first turn. That's
Uh,
3 March actions is 6, 7, 5.
yep.
That's okay. Sorry. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think the Resolve 4 is better than Oblivious Resolve 3, like functionally. Like, do you know Tenacious Resolve 4 is better than the stats on the Uger?
Yeah.
And these are mortal, where the other ones are half blood. So like you can get these guys hit with the tribal, right? What if they had opportunists? Hell
Ooh.
yeah, cleave two
Ooh.
with ability to get flurry.
Ooh.
What if these guys could counteract, can charge units on objectives and make them not count as scoring? Well, this is a unit
Ooh.
that's going to stick around because it has Tenacious 1. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, this thing's just, I think they got more stuff going for it. And we're not even talking about the fact that they have upgrades that can make even customize them better, which we'll get
Ooh,
to what the upgrades
gentlemen's.
are.
They're a gentleman's regiment. We'll talk about
Yeah.
what a savage and shield
So
biter do.
I understand that there's not a ton of Cleaves 2 stuff and then immediately came up, but like I think this unit is just positioned much better,
Okay.
even though it's heavy. It's heavy, so when it charges fucking objectives, it can do extra damage to them, right? Like
Yeah. Without even
yeah,
needing a
these
tribal tactic.
yeah, I like these guys a lot
Yeah.
better.
Steel Chosen. These guys have their minis shown, so I think they're valid to talk about. They have
Correct.
changed dramatically from how I remember them being.
Well, yeah, so they used to be 200 points, so they're 20 cheaper here. They used to be my move 5, they're move 6. In general, Nords seem to be 6 across the board, which is great. Their attacks went from 4
Wait,
to 6 now.
these were non-existing units, so there's no point in talking about the
Okay,
delta.
no,
Let's talk
well,
about
because
just
you were
what they are.
okay, yeah, because they were heavy. They had all sorts of shit. These are
Yeah,
very
yeah,
good.
yeah.
So things that I like about this unit. So for 180, they have 5 wounds, 2 defense, 1 evasion, which are nice. Their clash of 3 is great because that's where you want to see them. Flurry helps make that a little bit more consistent, and Linebreaker gets around shield. Impact 2, we love Impact 2 with Clash 3 because that means you're going to be hitting about 1 per stand. You're going to do 1
Yep.
hit per stand on
That's good
average.
math. That's good math.
So we like it. And then this character is exalted, so it doesn't get hit by the Jarl. But as we talked about, the Konagar can give these guys tribal tactics, so these guys can get the ability to counteract scoring. They can take out objectives. I think they're cool. Shield Biters is good tech too. I think so. Like these guys seem cool. The problem is with these guys is it's just like it seems good if you're going Konagar. I just think I don't know if I would take these over like Raiders.
I think that you absolutely would because 6 attacks, Clash 3, and Linebreaker are insane buffs over what Raiders provide. Oh, I guess
Yeah,
they're medium, but that has its advantages. Yeah,
it does.
I mean, you don't compare these to Raiders because Konungers can't take Raiders.
No, you compare these to Huskarls,
Yeah.
and I like these better than Huskarls. I think.
Okay, there we
Yeah,
go.
yeah, you're right. No, you're right. You're right.
Golter, possibly Golt Beast Pack. These guys also did not exist in the previous incarnation. They are kind of a mixture of 2 regiments that existed.
Yeah,
I don't like that they have Trample because Trample should be a Wadroon army identity rule, but
I
now
agree with that.
Sorcerer Kings and Nords get it. That's kind of
I
mean.
I think it being on in Sorcerer Kings, it's only on the elephant, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it being on one unit in SK is fine. I don't think it should be here. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think that these guys should have Impact 8 and Brutal Impact 2 and Lethal Demise. Come on. And they should be 1 wound each.
Yeah, that's
No,
true.
wait, 1 wound. No. I mean, that's like 1.0 version of Golter, but. 1 wound. No, I mean, that's like 1.0 version of Golter, but. 1 wound. No, I mean, that's like 1.0 version of Golter, but. 1 wound. No, I mean, that's like 1.0 version of Golter, but. 1 wound. No, I mean, that's like 1.0 version of Golter, but.
Do I like these guys? Defense 3 is kind of cool. I like Impact 3 plus Brutal Impact 1, but if I want to go a lot impacts, I feel you take the Cedar and then you just go with a bunch of like
That's fair.
giants.
I think that
Why?
these guys are kind of interesting.
I think they're held up by Trample, honestly.
I think they're held up by Trample. I would trade Trample 2 for Brutal Impact 2 like any day of the week. Like
I
like
agree,
every
especially since
single
there's.
time. If you gave me the choice, if they had two officers and you had pick one, 50 points for Brutal Impact plus 1 and 10 points for Trample 2, I would take Brutal Impact plus 1 every time.
Especially these guys don't. These guys don't. They're here for a good time to have a long time. Like
Yeah.
their defensive stats aren't bad, but they're not something you're going to stick in combat and it's going to be trampling to forever.
You could pay 40 points to make them not irregular. Sounds like a
200
good
point base.
deal. So
That does
sounds
seem
like a
good.
good deal to me. No, all right. Let's start talking about Jotnars.
The
See
things that people
Jotnar.
like.
People love giants. People love big models.
So the
People
before we jump
hate
into
rank and flanks. They love centerpiece models. Every rank and flank just devolves into centerpiece model hammer.
I don't
And
disagree with you. The one thing I will say before we get into the Giants is with what we've reviewed and the new the tribal tactics and the supremacies, I think that Nords can be played not just with monsters. The reason I
yeah,
stopped playing my Nords is there was like a list to run and it was just like you take a bunch of Volva that heal and sit on objectives, and then it's all are you efficient with Jotnars because they're the only things that did anything.
yeah,
So like I like this because like you can play them as a rank and flank for once, which I like.
good.
I don't
Yeah,
know if you feel the same way,
I
but
love
yeah,
rank and flanks, and I think that the Raider opportunist list had legs. They might have been weird, kind of weak legs, like meant for the sea and not so much for land. But yeah, I think I like that there is more of a focus on infantry. We'll see how that actually shakes out in like the actual meta with good players, but
correct.
yeah,
I think these are going to have, but I don't think you're gonna. I think you can get away with not having 4 Jotnars in a list like you used to.
yeah.
Anywho, so what do these guys have? Same points, same stats. Barrage 6, Range 8, Armor Pierce 1, still the same. Still Cleave 2, still Fiend Hunter, yeah, all the same.
Have these guys not changed at all?
They have the only thing they did is they now picked up Exalted and they
And
picked up
Titan.
Titan, so
And
they
so
can
like
be buffed up.
this is what I'm talking about with Beast Pack. Like clearly Exalted, yeah, that stands for chosen and Jotnars. Why is there not like a Beast Pack keyword? Is it because they didn't
There's
think that Werewargs fit the Beast Pack keyword and they were like, well, you know, if we're only going to have two guys in the keyword and we're still going to have to specify Werewargs for that one ability, we might as well not have a keyword at all. No, I'm thinking you should just have a Beast Pack keyword, Parabellum. I know you watch our video. I don't think they watch our videos.
they watch our videos to make sure that we stay compliant, right?
That's true. No, they just see that we posted videos with the hashtags
Uh,
to keep our
our affiliate
affiliate
giveaway.
code. That's what it is. Mountain Yatnar. For a long time, you said Mountain Yatnar kind of stinks. It's like the cheap Titan Jotnar. It doesn't have a
Yep.
role. It's just a worse Frost Giant or Sea Giant because they just have other stuff that they just do better in every way. They have changed the Mountain Yatnar drastically. Do you think it now has a distinct role and purpose compared to the other Yatnars, other than just being the cheap bad one?
Yes, I think it looks better for 20 extra points. You're getting 2 extra wounds, which feels good. You have harden 1, so it's going to make it harder to cut through with cleave. So I think this is a better improvement for its game state. It also you can't just give everyone terrifying 1 anymore, right? With the
Right.
Jotnars like charging, so it having terrifying I think sticks out. I still maintain that I feel that it should have unstoppable. But yeah. and then it counts as 6
Yeah,
objective
okay, I
stabilities,
was
right?
waiting
Yeah.
for you to comment on that because that's huge, man. That's really important.
Actually, I saw that and I didn't connect it. I think this is great because I'm gonna steal Isaac's line. I like narrative and reinforced through rules, and he's a mountain. So when he sits on objectives, he counts as 6 things, right? Like I think
Yeah,
that's,
he's
and
he's
he's
a
hard
whole
in one,
mountain.
which is also like that's something like he's hardened like a mountain. So actually, yeah, I like the more I think about this guy, the better it gets because it reinforces the theme of a mountain. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
this.
Editing Isaac here. We found out after this video was recorded, but before I started going through it, that this 6 for seizing thing on the Mountain Jotnar is going away because it was a negative play experience. So please ignore everything positive we say about it. It's not real. It's fake. We are just part of a mass hallucination. Goodbye.
And I think both of those are worth 20 points. So like I think it'll,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think he's worth the increased points and like I think just having a role makes him worth the increased points because
Yeah,
I
he's not
agreed
just
with
the
you.
cheap
He was
option.
he
Yeah.
was like literally like, okay, do you want to pay 50 points less for the like Ice Yatnar, but it doesn't get like the free hits or whatever from
Or all the
spellcasting?
keywords or all the cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Frost Ice Yatnar, here we are. I think he's mostly the same, right? Like he's like, is he identical like the Sea Yatnar was?
He lost Unstoppable.
Oh,
So
good,
he
good.
lost 10 points. He lost Unstoppable, which like I know people will get like sad panda about, but like I thought it just made the Ice Yatner too like it came down to do you have the points, and then if so you take it. I think this
Yeah.
makes it have a space. It was I was in pack 6 too, just so you were.
Okay. All right.
But
Cool.
yeah, so
All right.
I think you'll
Mostly the
still use
same.
it. The spells all stay the same. Yep.
All right, officer. So captain. This one is raiders only. Allows the command stand to count as one additional. When you combo it with that charge ability, you can have a light raider regiment count as 2 stands on an objective, which can be pretty janky if you can pull off the charge and like kill the unit that was on the objective or reduce it down to the
Or
point where you
it,
can score.
yep. So I think this is better in the context of mission packs. The old captain gave +1 resolve, and you could change his class to medium, which would allow them to be scoring. This does it in a roundabout way and reinforce later. I think this is better for the game state. I like this.
Yeah.
Objectives matter.
Yep. The other thing that Raiders specifically could take was Shield Biter. And now note that you can take both the Captain and the Shield Biter, so it's not a Gentleman's unit. Shield Biter is wacky. It used to just give you +2 inches to charge.
Which and then the character stand, if it attached, got +1
Oh,
attack.
well,
So yeah,
in duels or something, right? Like,
yes. Uh, Yes, yeah, which we hate dual tech. So,
yeah.
okay, Shield Biter is wild now because I think it's great because I think goes down fighting is probably more applicable than just a lethal demise. Like it can spike, but like the fact that like your raiders can die and then you get like one stand attacking back can be just enough to
Yeah, like,
push things over, which
do
I
some
like.
damage back. Question.
And
This
yeah,
second part, isn't there like a mastery or item that you can take which allows like doesn't Ryuta I'm gonna
correct,
stick with that butchered pronunciation. That like do that so
correct,
like you could pay points for Ryuta or you could just join a regiment with a shield biter like that.
correct.
It seems like it shouldn't have
Oh,
this second ability.
Yeah, I agree because then it makes the other thing Sophie's not a Sophie's choice because
Yeah.
that's hard to say. So, but this is kind of wild with a character attached because you have 2 units that can just like go out fighting. Like, especially thinking about like a pretty tanky like your characters are good, so them plus a command stand attacking back, depending what unit and what you're going into, can be enough to just eliminate a unit, right?
Yeah. 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 Yes. Oh god, yeah. It does depend somewhat on the command stand. Like Shield Biter was like Raider and Bearsark, I think.
Yeah,
Bearsark having to choose between Savage and Shield Biter makes them a gentleman's unit, but I also think that you pick Savage every time unless you are specifically like doing character die tech, in my
Correct.
opinion. I don't know.
Yeah.
The ability to take a free additional charge action where you can like charge clash a screen and then charge, that feels like we're going back to the Scourge discussion. That feels like it unlocks too many opportunities to like not take every chance that you can get. So this is like an
Correct.
Ulfidnar and a Berserk upgrade, and I think 100% of the time you take Savage unless you're doing some kind of
Oh
weird
God.
shield biter jank meme.
This allows you to do the thing you love best, which is move charge, but then you can follow it up with an attack. You can also do a move charge.
Oh my god, you're right. You could move and then additional free charge and then clash.
This
Oh
gets
my
you.
god.
Yeah, you always take Savage, I think.
I was just thinking of it as like, oh yeah, at the end of your activation, like
You
you
can
can do
charge,
the
you can just
no, you can do it at the start, you can do it at the end. Oh
yeah,
my god.
I think that opens a
Ridiculous.
lot. And the reason it's good if you charge in Clash to kill something and then charge into something else, then it protects you next turn from getting a counter charge. So there's a lot of reasons that's good.
Yep.
Savage
Huskarl
good.
can get Thane. Thane is bad. I hate Bash. Even though every like pretty much every gentleman's regiment is like Bastion 1 or something worth taking. I
Yeah.
still like that it exists to give you the choice, but I loathe Bastion. I hate defensive draw events and spells.
Yeah, it would be cool if it did
I
something else.
yeah,
I know that's like a
the
bad.
tempo cost is just too
Yeah,
much. Like
especially since a lot of the units in here have evasion. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
is plus one
yeah.
evasion, and Mindbreaker gets around Bastion too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so like there's tech again. Yeah, I don't.
Linebreaker
Yeah.
should get around Phalanx too, in my opinion. I think that there's a thematic reason why it doesn't, but there's also a thematic reason why it should. And no, I will not divulge. I will not talk further on that. Scald.
Exactly the same as before. Plus one resolve gains bravery, which bravery gets around fearsome and terrifying. So it's good.
Yeah,
Like if units can have it and stuff, it makes them a little tankier in situations.
this is the sort of defensive tech that like I agree with. It's like a permanent, like useful buff that doesn't depend on tempo in any way.
Oh, 100%. Like said differently, like if you have captain or a scald or a shield biter and a scald, like there is a choice there. I'm not bringing
Yeah,
Savage into this discussion because
because
we've been
there's
over
no
how
choice. There's
broken.
no choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Then was double the cost and just gave you +1 defense, I think it would be worth it compared to like. I know that that's why like draw event ones are pretty cheap. Like let me look at Then. I think only Huskarls can actually take it. Um, so I just want to look 20 points. 20
Okay.
points for Bastion doesn't like it doesn't especially Huskarls like that's too much of a tempo loss at the times
That's a
where it
too
will
much.
matter, in my opinion.
So, and the thing that's bad about it is they have shield and then thank. So if something hits you with line breaker, you're still just back to defense two, right?
Yeah, but there's not a whole lot of line breaker
That's
in defense of
fair.
them, but
But I think Scald would do better. Like getting to resolve four and ignoring fearsome and terrifying feels like
yeah.
you would get a lot of benefit in the long term as well.
Yep. So that with the officers concluded, that is the Nord's army list. We are in a brave new world. I guess my question to you, now having reviewed all this, do you have list ideas that you're brewing, that you're working on? Like, is
Yeah.
there anything like in particular that you're super interested to try, or that you think is going to be super good? Like,
So
what's
okay.
your final overall thoughts? Also, actually, before we get into that, I actually want to talk specifically about like the changes. Like, as a former Nords player who like got out of it for a little while, you mentioned at the beginning you got out of it because it was kind of stale. Like, how do these changes specifically make you feel? Are
I
you
feel great.
back?
So I would obviously for the upcoming campaign watch our channel to see that. I'm excited to try city states because I think big blocks of units are cool. But I'm excited that to get back into blooded now, where before I was all in on spires. I think there's a few prevalent forces why I feel that way. There is a lot more released units
Mm-hmm.
since I left, and those units used to all just be like bloodless, like bloodless, like bait.
Yeah.
And it's all just like cool. I kind of just have things that I can't control, and I think the design space they have now with those units are a lot better. I think that I like the sub faction Half Bloods versus Mortals way better, and I like that they restructured like the war bands for things because it was out like Jarls getting Ugers was like weird. So, and
Oh, yeah.
I think between the special rules and the unit rules, as I said earlier, I think you could run this without relying so heavily on the giants, which I actually think is great. And on the other side, if you like giants, the cedar and the new play space for the mountain Jotnars make me feel like you could do that in a little bit more interesting of a way if you want to run all centerpiece models. So
Yeah.
I like it. Like I will forever be sad that I don't like the 2 units a turn getting Vanguard for Shaman went away because I feel like there was a better player could get juice there. But like overall, I think the army list is in a way better place. I think a lot more units are a lot more interesting and usable. And like I want to go buy a Vargar Award and Golter Beast and just like go ham with these awesome things
Oh, yeah.
that get flurry. Yeah, like that's what I want to do.
All right, well then you basically answered like my initial question of like what are you excited to try, and it sounds like you are really excited for Half Bloods.
I
It
I
sounds
would
like
have liked
Half Blood is like what you're like. I want
I
that.
yeah, I used to always like half. I ran more Half Bloods back. So I went to Volva because they were new, which was the one thing that
Yeah.
was new for a long time. And the second part is it was the only anvil the faction had once trolls went away. But like, if you remember my older list, I always liked running. Like I like running stalkers, and I got Fenner Beast really early. Like I like running
Yeah.
that, like the more fantastical elements and the raider elements. So I'm excited about that. I do think like some of the chosen models like Bosun and stuff probably are still things you're going to need just because they do a thing nothing else does. But I think you can. I think there's a lot of stuff going on, so you don't just have to rely on bringing 3 monsters or why even join the table. You know what I mean?
Yep, that will definitely be a much more interesting state than just all right, here's my mountain, my sea, and my ice. Like let's go, let's boogie.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
all right. Well, you know, like, comment. So you're better at this spiel. You
No, so
you
there's a
you do
few
the
things
whole
we want to
spiel.
say. Thank you for watching. If you want to
Yes.
help us and support the channel, please use our affiliate link down below. Table it at Parabellum's online store. You can't just click the link when you check out. You have to enter the code.
Yes.
That supports the channel. We get some
And
money
yeah.
from affiliates, and that helps with the narrative content. As we've been doing these narrative, we basically have to build and paint brand new armies. So any
Yeah.
help is appreciated. So please do that. Like and subscribe so you can see our upcoming content. We are preparing to do the new City State versus Sorcerer King narrative campaign. We had a lot of fun with the last one, and this one, spoiler, addresses a lot of our comments in a positive way. So we're very excited
Yep.
for it. So stay tuned.
And I'm the one screwing it up this time. We'll see you in the next conquest.